So today we have reached the final letter of the Confident framework, T for truth. But before we dive in, I want us to take a quick step back to the last episode. Did you notice that I actually forgot something? Well, that episode was definitely not perfect. I missed giving the concept of next step, a mental picture and a color. So here it is. Imagine a pair of vibrant orange training shoes, the kind that lights up when you move. They symbolizes movement, energy and progress, even if it's just one small step at a time. And that's the thing about being in motion. It gives us the space to adjust along the way. You don't need to have it all figured out before you begin. So it was really actually a coincidence that happened, but well, that happens, and it's just to continue get moving. And with that, let's begin today's episode, T for truth. There's a phrase I often return to and say, the more I rest in my identity, the more joy and creativity pulse through what I do.
Confidence starts inside of you.
So imagine that we meet for the very first time at an event. We shake hands, exchange names, and then you will ask me, well, so who are you? Tell me about yourself. The most easy version would be, I'm a leadership coach from Sweden. I'm a mom of 2 teenage daughters. I'm married to Johan. Those are true things, but are they really who I am? Well, in today's episode, we're exploring something deeper. Not just what we do, but who we are. Not what we've achieved, but what gives us meaning. And this is the final step in the Confident framework, T for truth. And it's all about standing in your identity without the performance. So a few weeks ago, I spoke with Tom Rosenack, who you will hear in one of the upcoming episodes. He shared something beautiful about the word confidence. It comes from the Latin confidere, which means to trust or to have faith. So confident isn't about being perfect or certain. It's about trusting yourself, even when the outcome is unclear. It's rooted in something much deeper, faith in who you are. And that's what the truth is all about. Let me take you back to another chapter of my life. I was sitting cross-legged on the top of a duvet in a beautiful restored 18th century room, part of a castle, where I spent the last 4 days in silence. Around me, on the bed, there were open books, my journal, and pages of notes from the past 6 months. I was rereading thoughts, prayers, and verses that had found their way to me. Some shared by friends and others uncovered on my own. Somehow, they all felt connected, though I couldn't quite grasp how. I had come to this silent retreat after switching off my phone and stepping away from social media, family engagements. I joined about 20 others, complete strangers to me, to spend these days in complete silence. Well, it was disorienting at first, sharing meals without conversation, navigating without the usual noise. But as the outer silence deepened, my inner voice grew clearer. Thoughts and emotion I usually drown out began to surface. The following week, I was scheduled to return to work full-time after 3 months of stress-related sick leave. But what I was returning to had shifted. My role was not there anymore. It has been reshaped and redefined, and someone else actually had it. So I didn't know what exactly was awaiting me. The only thing I knew, it will be different. And that's why I came to this retreat. I needed to realign, to reconnect with my own direction, to make choices not out of obligation or fear, but from a place that with a quiet clarity. I wanted to be sure that the steps ahead would be rooted in who I am, not just what I can deliver. This morning, a familiar verse caught my eye. I had read it many times before, but this time I saw it differently. I didn't read it through the lens of my roles, but through the lens of who I am. It was like something inside of me clicked. A puzzle piece I didn't know was missing slid into place. Suddenly, I didn't just see my professional path. I felt how I, as a person, could be a key to what was coming next. My shoulders, they dropped and a quiet relief settled in. This wasn't about output anymore. It was about presence. I could return to the world, not with a new plan, but with a new posture. Not as someone trying to prove her worth, but as someone living in it. And that shift gave me something I hadn't felt in a long time. It gave me peace. And that morning, I made a quiet decision. I would leave the workplace I was part of. It no longer matched who I was becoming. 4 weeks later, I handed in my resignation. It felt simple, certain, and even now, years later, I still feel anchored in what was revealed to me in that quiet moment. That retreat marked both an end and a beginning. It brought together everything I had lived and learned up until that point, and pointed me forward toward this work, toward helping others lead with color, confidence, and care. I realized I am someone even when I'm not doing anything. Of course, it wasn't black and white. It never is. But there was a shift, a deeper knowing. My value isn't in my pace or performance. It's in how I show up as me. It was like laying a puzzle pieces patiently, with trust, and I discovered that my identity wasn't lost. It was waiting to be heard with more intention. We often confuse what we do with who we are, but identity is more than that. There's a phrase I often return to and say, the more I rest in my identity, the more joy and creativity pulse through what I do. Because here's what I found. When there's a space between who I am and what I do, something powerful happens. That space becomes room for flow, for presence, for play. And that's where creativity lives. But when identity and performance collapse into each other, when my worth feels tied up by my output, everything tightens. Joy shrinks, pressure grows, and I start operating from stress instead of alignment. Robert Dilts describes identity as the sense of who a person or group perceives themselves to be and how they are perceived by others. It links together values, beliefs, capabilities, and behaviors into a coherent system. Your identity is the inner compass that gives you the leadership rhythm and soul. When we operate from that place, our actions become lighter, more joyful. We're not performing, we're expressing. And at that very core of identity, there are your values. Your values are the foundation on how you want to live, to lead and relate, even when no one's watching. They're not about being perfect, they're about being aligned. When your actions are rooted in your values, they feel different. They feel stronger, freer, and you're no longer just reacting to external expectations. You're leading from within. And that's why truth matters. It's not a loud declaration. It's a quiet alignment, a knowing, a way of showing up that says, this is who I am and this is what matters. Truth connects deeply with two other pieces of the confidence framework, clarity and empathy. Because when you know who you are, your direction becomes clearer. And when you feel secure in yourself, you can truly listen to others. In teams and organizations, I've seen how lack of identity and clarity leads to political games, avoidance, and disconnection. But confident leaders, grounded in their truth, don't need to push, prove, or please. They create space. They lead from presence, and they set the right type of boundaries. They bring color without overpowering. Every organization has its own values and vision, and that's a good thing. But the ones who truly live those values, who align words and actions, they are the ones who will keep the people that matter. The ones who want to belong to that organization and contribute. The ones who want to contribute to something greater. For me personally, this has become a deal breaker in where I choose to belong. When an organization talks about values but doesn't live them, I lose trust. But when words and actions align, well, that's when I'm ready to go that extra mile. How about you? I want to offer you a moment, a breath to turn inwards. Because this episode isn't just about ideas, it's about you. Who are you when there's no title to wear? When no one's measuring what you deliver? Who are you when you simply get just to be? So let's pause here. Let's make space for that reflection. And here are some prompts that you can use. What makes your heart beat a little faster? And what gives you energy and lights you up? How would you describe your personality, not your job title? And if you removed all of your roles, who's still there? Write it down. Don't overthink it. Just begin. And maybe, just maybe, the next time we meet and you ask me, who are you? I pause, smile, and answer from my truth. Well, I'm curious. I have a gift of using vivid language to express what matters. And at my core, I'm joy-filled. My passion is to support vibrant, colorful leaders who create lasting impact in themselves and in the world around them. Because I believe that you are so much more than the role you hold. So take your time on this. Let the answers be messy, honest, and evolving. Because your identity is not a label. It's something, a living truth. If you want to reconnect with your values and find your inner compass, I've created a free guide called Clarity Workbook. It's a practical starting point to understand what really matters to you. You will find the link in the show notes. And remember, you don't need all the answers before you act. Start small, act +1. One color, one brush stroke at a time. So with this episode, we now completed the first round of the Confident Framework. But the journey isn't over. These themes, clarity, ownership, nurture, focus, intuition, discipline, empathy, next step, and truth, well, they keep showing up in different ways, through stories, tools, and real conversations. Because leading yourself and others with confidence isn't something you achieve and move on from. That is a lifelong practice, a colorful, evolving journey. So thank you for being here, for showing up, for being curious and courageous. When you lead from your uniqueness with your real colors, it doesn't just boost you, it lifts the people around you. It creates culture of growth and trust. So hit follow, subscribe, and keep tuning in. This podcast is here to remind that you don't have to shrink to fit. Leadership is not just black and white. You're here to lead in full color. And now you believe that I have forgotten something again. But no, actually not. If truth would be a figure, I would actually put that as a palette that the artists have. You are the artist here. You're holding your color palette in your hand and your brush in the other. And it's you that apply the colors into the world around you. And today I have put on my colorful dress just to celebrate that. Enjoy your colors, wear them with pride, and use them to boost others around you and create really sustainable results going forward. Lead in your colors. Be confident. Be you.
Bright and brave in every hue. Confidence starts inside of you.